All right. Good evening to everyone.
Good
Thank you all
afternoon.
for joining. My name is
Thing.
Coach Maya, and we have our panelists here tonight. This session is called Pause, Pivot, or Power Through. It is a session for mothers in honor of Mother's Day, mothers by blood and mothers by love. We are going to speak about the challenges of parenting, of being a mother, and balancing the careers that we hold at this time. So thank you so much for joining us. And we have with us Mrs. Giovanna Ruiz. She is the founder of Your Mom Friend, Your Mom Friend TT. It's a social media page. She is also an a financial advisor, right? We also have Miss Olivia Isaac. She is the CEO of Prime Construction and also an HR professional moving into the sphere of business and ownership. Finally, we have with us Mrs. Danielle Parikama. She is a senior broadcasting journalist at 98.1, a communication specialist, and a bonus mom. So she is here to discuss with us how we transition motherhood. And so, ladies, we understand that motherhood is a calling, biological or by love. Indeed, once you are surrounded by children, it is a calling. And it's refreshing when we have these conversations that we have to reflect on the journey of a mother, when to pause, when to pivot, and when to power through as professionals. We reflect on those honest tensions between ambition and nurturing, identity and responsibility, and the evolving image of the woman staring back in the mirror. So, whether you are returning to work, you are shifting gears, or pushing forward in your own career, this session is a reminder that you are more than just one title and you are not alone. So welcome, and thank you again for joining us. So let's go. We started talk. We want to talk about the pause and the grace over guilt. Guilt is a challenging feeling that we go through as women, as mothers, because there is this constant need to perform. There is a need to prove ourselves in some way that we are worthy, that we can compete with the men, and that we can still be good mothers, wives, partners, and everything else in between. So, ladies, we have challenges with emotional wellness, guilt as mothers, and even forgiving ourselves. So, what are your thoughts on dealing with that guilt? Am I good enough? Am I good enough, mom? When you have your responsibilities in the workplace. We'll start with you, Gio. How do you feel about that?
So, dealing with that guilt for me personally, because this is fresh on my mind, my baby is 2 years old now. I had an issue with being a type A person before pregnancy to then coming after pregnancy. And we all know mom brain is real, right?
Yes.
So having to deal with, I have to write down everything now. I have to put things into my calendar. And I'm guilty because I feel like I'm not performing at the level that I was accustomed to performing. And then I'm going home and my baby is sleeping 1 or 2 hours at a time in the night and I'm trying to balance all of that. And am I giving him enough time when I go at home? Am I giving my boss or my managers at the point in time my best self? How do I now divide myself in two? And then even having to face the traffic by the time you get 2 or 3 hours of sleep in the night. You have to face traffic. You're going into your job. You're feeling like you're not your best self. It's really hard. And if you don't have that supportive network of other women there to sometimes just make you a cup of tea. I remember when we were at work somewhere, you would come across with just a cup of tea. And that moment that we would just sit down and have that time, 5, 10 minutes. It's not like, you're taking up a grand space of time, but that
Yeah.
little bit of time that you're able to just connect with someone and someone that understands where you're coming from. And they might not 100% understand, but they
Yeah.
know that you need that little bit of grace,
Hmm.
right? They know that you need that little bit of support. And just having that, and then being that for someone else. Because if
Yes.
you have moved on from that position now and you're able to balance somewhat, it's your responsibility now as a woman to support other women.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, anyone else? Olivia, Donnie, how are you all feeling about that guilt when it
Just
comes
like
to work?
Giovanna said, I will honestly say, parents, give yourself grace because it is a lot. The job
Yeah.
is a handful. Amongst everything that else that is happening in the world, give yourself grace because you can't do it all. Even though we try to be super mom
Yep.
and superhero for our children,
Yep.
grace is so important. Don't feel guilty for even pausing sometimes and
Hmm.
really sitting in silence. Don't feel guilty for that because you also have to balance the pressure of your mental health.
Correct.
Because if you're mentally unstable, you still can't full your true potential of being a great mother.
Yeah, you
So
Correct.
you're
can't pour
yeah,
from an empty cup.
correct is
Exactly.
right.
Yes, yes, yes.
True. So you have to really watch the balances and don't feel guilty for it. Sometimes you just need to pause and enjoy adult company as well.
Hmm.
As Samoya used to be the support for you, a cup of tea and some adult refreshing conversation can really change your trajectory sometimes.
Mhm.
And can really
Absolutely.
be a breath of fresh air and take away the frustration in that particular moment. So just give yourself
Absolutely.
grace and don't feel guilty at all. Life is
Absolutely.
about balance.
And you know, the thing about the guilt as well is that when you are in the workspace and you work with men, they don't see things the same way sometimes. And there are even some women who don't have children, or their children are old enough and they felt that, you know what, I paid the price, I made it work. Who are you to complain?
I
That
think we
is
need
some
to
of the
unlearn
challenges
that.
we see.
We need to unlearn that practice in the workplace.
Yeah.
And it's time we really put on the empathy coat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am not a
Oh,
physical mother, but I do empathize with parents in the workplace.
yeah.
So sometimes if a parent needs to leave early or something, I honestly don't have the hustle and bustle, so I would be the one to hold the fort.
Wow.
And that's fine.
Right.
I don't see with that as well because I understand the challenges of parenting. The workspace really don't provide for you to be a healthy, responsible parent because the
Mm.
time conflicts. Because the time you require to be in work, often your child finishing school earlier than you get off of work. So if you don't have some
Yeah.
type of system or support in place, one, your child gonna either have to suffer for that, stay back in school with the security, and again, that's a safety risk that parents always
Absolutely.
have to be concerned with, and that's a thought that goes through their mind day in and day out.
That's right.
So that is something that they also struggling with. So I really do see the issue with being a support for other women in the organization.
Correct.
Women, just be a sister keeper now.
Absolutely. And that is difficult because the systems of the workplace, they are designed almost for you to struggle.
It
And that is
is.
the reality. If school starts at 8, between 8 and 8:30, and you have to get to work for 8, and then school ends at what? Between 1,
3 o'clock,
half 2 or so, 3 o'clock.
2:30 to three
How
o'clock.
are you doing that? How are you doing it?
Well,
Realistically, go ahead.
Well, Samoya, sometimes I find that some schools need to also understand the timing for parents because recently there was a PTA meeting that was scheduled for 8:30 in the morning. And I was shocked. I was like, but most parents will be working, most parents might have shift. So I was confused as to why the PTA group would schedule a meeting at 8:30 in the morning when most parents would be at work at that time. Why
Yeah.
not sometime in the afternoon when parents are leaving work? So sometimes I don't know if schools are also or PTAs have to also consider that most parents are working, if not
Yeah.
all, are working in some job, sometimes shift. And as you correctly said, not all jobs are sympathetic to allowing you to leave to that time to go and be there in that PTA meeting for your child. And sometimes that's the challenges, the workplace versus the school. I've seen that over the years.
And as you say about the school, so COVID taught us that we could be a little more flexible. So why we still have to physically go to a PTA? Why can't we
Exactly.
have a
Yeah.
Zoom PTA?
Exactly.
Are we really moving forward? Are we going backward and forward at the same time?
That's right. That's right.
So if
I
you want to
agree with
have
that.
it at 8:30, at least parents will be able to log in on your devices. And we can
Mm-hmm.
still have it because I know after school might be a challenge because teachers are also mothers and they also have their responsibility. So they try to keep it within that window as well as convenient for them. But we could utilize
Right.
technology to make it convenient for all of us because we also have jobs as well. That wouldn't
Absolutely.
also
Correct.
and it be so convenient for us to leave at any up moment that the school calls. So I guess we need to be considerate of each other time and understand that we all have jobs and try to come to the best solution that works for both of us
Yeah.
as often as we can.
You know, one of the
Right.
strange things is that when you enter into the workplace, and I'm going back to the point of sometimes management, you don't quite get the empathy. I don't want to say sympathy. You don't quite get the empathy that there are women in the workspace who are carrying dual roles. So you'll hear, I've heard
Yes.
comments. I've heard comments. So your husband can help, you know, and when you think about it, Jesse was also saying last night, guys, just to say, Jesse is not able to attend tonight. So Jesse, we miss you so much, and we are holding down for you as usual. But Jesse was mentioning from the father's or the male perspective that they are expected to show up to work, sick or well, whether the child has challenges or not. It's not an excuse. It's not a viable excuse for them. Because the question becomes, where is the mother? But then the same mother is in the workspace as well, because we are living in a time where two incomes have become necessary,
Mm-hmm.
and there I even say three, for a household to properly function and survive in this economy. So he is saying, his managers or within those spaces are expecting the men to show up to work and let the women deal with the children. Yet the women's management team are expecting your husband needs to step up. That creates challenges in
Yes,
the
yes.
marriage structure or the relationship structure, because we now fighting and we seeing each other as the enemy, and there's no support. Yeah.
So
And
even on
should.
my end, so to simply drop my baby and pick him up from his preschool, my husband and I had to strategize and say, all right, I have to be in certain meetings at Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you can take Thursdays and Tuesdays, and then we can alternate based on the week, and even then, even with us sharing these responsibilities, these daily responsibilities, he still has his responsibility at his job where he has to leave Port of Spain at around 1 o'clock to
Wow.
reach to the daycare at 2 o'clock, and then you're coming home to have to take care of a child and still be
That's
virtual
right.
and working and all of that, and it's a lot even with the shared responsibility. So maybe, as you said, with that three incomes, maybe we need a third partner to in
We
order
need to have
to
an
stand.
generated income in the background because we don't have any
Yeah,
more bodies to do it.
It's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
lot. Even the grandparents, we have grandparents who are working. My
Yeah.
mom, when I had my daughter, she was still working, you know.
My mom
So
also
Right.
works.
we
So
have
we
that
don't have the
happening,
luxury
and
of
you had to
grandparents
pay.
being in the home as
You
well.
don't, that's correct. We don't always have the luxury of grandparents. And I mean, shout out to the aunties who really step in, but the aunties are also working. So that's the structure that we have. And right now, at
Yeah.
one point, I had to pay for daycare, and I still had to pay for preschool because the
Yep.
support was not necessarily there. And I had a responsibility, depending on the type of position that you hold. Me being HR,
Yes.
HR couldn't have any excuses,
Yeah.
So
HR only need to do better. We need to do better.
we,
Yeah.
We
and
need to do
funnily enough,
better.
HR, as much as people, contrary to what people believe, a lot of times HR is simply following the rules. We don't make
Mhm.
them. We have an
Yep.
executive to answer to as well, and I don't think people understand that.
Our
So
hands are really tied behind our backs.
listen, your hands, your eyeballs, your mouth, everything is just bound and gagged as an HR practitioner sometimes, because you are feeling the pains and you can't say anything. It's either you speak out or it costs you your job, and that's the reality.
Mhm.
When you have bills to pay like everyone else. So that guilt, which causes us to run out in the workplace and do what we have to do, go to work unwell sometimes. You are, because note that when children come home from daycare and preschool, when they're sick, you're gonna get it.
Everybody gets it. Everybody
You are
gets it.
going to get it. And you know what? Sometimes these children bounce back in a day or 2 days, and you are the one that's flat. It has happened to me so many times. The parents suffering and the child is bouncing off the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, it's a lot. It's a strength. And Danielle was saying earlier that it's a grace that you carry to be a mother. It's really it's something that God gives you from the time you deliver that child and you connect with that child. That grace is just upon your life, because it is not easy to do this. So this guilt is
Well, I would like to add somewhere and the team. In terms of a bonus parent, there are unique challenges. The unique challenges are that blended families itself present unique challenges, being in a blended home. And sometimes as a bonus parent, and I love the word bonus parent, by the way, because bonus means plus, it means positive, it means added, you're adding to the child's life. One of the days when you'll say step parent, because step parent in itself had a very negative, in my view, it connoted a very negative thing. Stepmom, especially stepmoms or stepdads.
You always thought about some wicked lady or man.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That is the connotation that you get from the time you say stepmother or stepfather. Oh, but it presents
one time.
Yeah, and a lot of unique challenges come up. In my personal experience, like I've been a bonus mom for this year would be 12 years.
Wow.
Because my stepdaughter was 3 when she came in my life, and her situation, I would see, needed to have as many people around her to love her as possible, to be honest. Yeah. And the unique situations that present is that she's at my home, our home, every other weekend and half of the vacations. So this child is uniquely stronger, because for any child to be in different homes, the mom's home, and then she'll come by the grandparents, and then here, for me, the guilt is, am I doing enough to input positively into this child? Wow. Sometimes I prayerfully say, Lord, because I am responsible for the time she's at my home. By the time she's with us, I'm partly responsible for inputting as much as I can positively into this child. So sometimes the guilt for me as a bonus mom would be, am I doing enough, Lord? Am I doing enough? Because and here's the unique thing: you would do as much as you can because you would do it for your own child. That's how I would look at it. God would expect me to take care of this child as my own, which I would do. But then when she comes back into the environment, whatever influenced her in the other home, it's like, yes, sometimes I have to start over. It's challenging that I have seen her growth from stage to stage. And I must say, she's a quite strong child to know that, there are different homes, different situations that she's go through. And from childhood until teenage, now teenage years is quite another challenge. Whether you're a biological mom or whether you're a bonus mom, teenage years presents its own challenges. So you have to be really observant and prayerful when it comes to being in the teenage years. So I think my guilt would be like, okay, even though she's here some of the time, am I doing enough with the time allotted? Am I doing enough, to input positively? So that's fine.
I'm not a bonus mom, but I'm an auntie. So I also have teenage nieces as well. So one of the guilt for me is, am I being a good example for them to follow?
Yes.
Am I really impacting their life positively because they are looking up to me? Because here I am preaching certain things to them religiously, but am I living my own testimony? So sometimes they carry the weight of that, because one of the things as they are teenagers, they're going to question everything.
Yes.
And go on the days where do as I say and not as I do. Now you have to lead by example. So I try to put up into my mantra. If I'm not doing that, obviously you're not expected to do that either.
Yes.
So literally I have to live my life as the testament for them. Because I want to, you see me preaching certain things, I need to be living by my word.
Yeah.
Jackie, you
Right.
also have that additional pressure as well, even as a bonus mom, because they're going to get the blame. Because one thing parents love to do is, you can never be a stepmother, you'll never be a stepmother.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes,
Yes.
So we can't
absolutely.
really ignore that. So now you have additional pressure on you now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Twice
That's
as
correct.
best as a parent that for that bonus child, because now you're going to be
Mhm.
blamed for things that you're not even self-responsible for.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you. That's right.
yeah.
That's right. That's so correct.
And it really takes a certain level of maturity, yeah, as a person in a broken relationship, if I say that way, to not blame the step parent. And I'm just
Mhm.
gonna put that out there that, ladies, if the man go, it's because he extended himself as an invitation. Just say,
Mhm.
don't fight me on it, right? That's the reality. You can't stop people from doing whatever they have to do. And if not, now there's a situation where another party is involved, what needs to happen is, let's just operate in a place of maturity for the sake of the child or children
Children.
that's involved.
Mhm.
Okay.
You don't have to like one another. But at the very least, because we know there's an infant, it seems
Yes.
that we will have to take another direction.
We had a
And
good
allow the
Yes.
step
Yes.
parent, give them that chance, give them that fair chance, unless you have reason to believe that the child is being impacted negatively.
And let
Just
me
take it.
add to children are smarter than you think.
Oh,
You might think, well, this child not really. Listen to me. Children are smart. They read the room. They know what's going on. Sometimes they analyze the situation
and they get
so
that
maturely.
manipulation as well.
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Especially when mummies and daddies can't be mature enough to have conversation. They play both sides.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That happens. And you have
So
to
that
power
is
Yeah.
through those
something that
moments too, eh?
parents need to understand, that is really not about I'm not talking to you and you're not talking to me, but we need to
That's right.
communicate, because we need to have solid ground for this one particular commonality that we have. Yes, we grow past the
Absolutely.
Yes.
relationship, but we have to be responsible
Absolutely.
parents for this individual here that we combine to make. And we have to handle it maturely. And that is something that parents tend to discount and put their own feelings above the feelings of the child. And that is
Yeah.
something I think we need to
That's right.
move past as adults in 2025, because these children are running game on us.
Oh, listen, they are intelligent. They
Smart.
truly are.
They
Yes.
already know that mommy and daddy don't talk. So they be playing both sides.
Yep,
Mhm.
Yes.
they sure
Yes.
do. So you have to really catch that in an early stage, and in spite of the emotions, you'll have to say, listen, this conversation is not for you. Jump out as quickly as you got back in.
Mhm.
And you
So-
do have to have that. That this is not for you, and I don't want to hear it. And that is the position that you will have to take. But so that is one aspect of motherhood that you have to deal with when there's another party. So, all of these emotions that women have to carry, I think it's important for us to now look at investing in ourselves where counseling is concerned.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
There are
Therapy
EAP
is
resources
very
in the
important.
workplace. If you cannot afford EAP privately, take it from your workplace. There's even the mediation center there. I'm not certain how, based on the ministerial changes, but there is a mediation center that you can have those types of conversations for free if you need that kind of support. There's even a parenting course through that ministry as well. But we have to look for different ways as moms. I mean, you can't always tell yourself, well, I'm waiting for daddy to go with me. You have to invest in
Mhm.
your mental health, because we carry the weight of our households.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
As
That-
well
that
as
is
supplying
so-
some additional resources as well. They also have the mental health centers in the various communities.
Absolutely.
They do take walking, sorry. There is support, so don't feel like you have to carry the burden alone and then snap when it becomes too heavy.
Yes.
There is support. And then as well as any church groups as well, if it's part of any religious organization, they tend to partner with psychologists to offer that support to persons.
Oh, yes.
So please, there is a community with resources. There, somebody always knows somebody in Trinidad
Mhm.
who could lend a hand. Even sometimes you don't even some need professional help. You could just actually communicate with somebody who you trust, and they can
Absolutely.
offer helpful solutions as well. So don't ever feel
Absolutely.
that you have to carry the burden of being a parent or being a
Alone.
bonus mom alone. You could communicate with somebody with same logical thinking brain as you, and you all could brainstorm some really cool ideas and really discover some cool things. So don't ever feel that that burden is yours alone to carry.
It's not.
We
It
are
is
part of
truly
a community that could give you that support.
absolutely. But
Yes,
Jesse
that's
is
true.
writing online and he is saying, I always say a child did not ask to be here. It is we, the adults, wanted to have fun. You
Ah,
all right.
It's a
We can
product of a
count
good
on Jesse to
party.
give us it real. We could always count on Jesse to be real with us
yeah.
in this conversation, in this dance. Thank you so much, Jesse, for your contribution. And that is real. That is a real thing when you have to consider the maturity that you need to be at to be a responsible parent, even if it's just you alone. It's important to
Mhm.
know that God sees and he is going to do what needs to be done because the child belongs to God. We forget about that. And we have that responsibility. We will answer for the child's state where the child is under the age of accountability. We have to answer to God for what we would have done, with this child to raise this child in a certain way. So there's now the pivot. We spoke about the pause and giving yourself that grace amid the challenges, especially with work. And Geo, returning to work after we've had children, for those who were stay-at-home moms at one point in
Mhm.
time, that return to work is challenging.
Challenging.
I
Yes. Yeah.
remember sitting on my stairwell the day after when I went out for maternity leave. I sat on my staircase after I closed the door and I cried because I heard my child crying in the background. And I just, everything just
Mhm.
wanted to drop the bags and go back to my child. But I could
Mhm.
not have afforded to. I had to work.
Yeah.
It really hurt. So Gio, tell me about that. How did you deal with that, especially in this stage of your career?
So let me start by saying, from my Your Mom Friend group, TT, I've spoken to so many mothers who fear that the time that they've spent away from the workforce has set them back. And depending on the time period, some of us might be 3 months, 6 months. I know I wanted 2 years. I didn't get 2 years because of the economy. We need that dual income, right? But they feel like they're no longer competitive, or
Yeah.
simply as what I mentioned before, you're not able to be your best self at work
Hmm.
postpartum. And
Hmm.
this is coming from me. I'm a type A person, you went from being on top of everything and having to now write everything down in a diary, put reminders on your Google Calendar, make sure to remember to do certain calls and documents because you don't want to seem incompetent on top of being a new mom, on top of balancing all of these responsibilities.
Yeah.
And you're juggling all these new responsibilities like the childcare, and you still have to juggle your work schedule and everything like that. And to pivot in such a way, it's challenging. And the truth about motherhood is that motherhood is a master class in
Ah,
time management, crisis resolution, patience, and ladies, we all talking about it, the grace we give ourselves
hmm.
and the grace that we extend to others. But one thing that is for certain, we as women, we're adaptable, we're
Yeah.
resilient, and I'm gonna use our ODPM term, we're resilient, right?
Brilliant.
Yes.
We are resourceful, and we need to remember our power. We need to remember our power. And we need to remember that if we need to rebuild our confidence, it starts with these small wins.
Mhm.
Update your resume, brush up on your soft skills, book a session with Coach Samoya, you know?
Oh,
Right? It might be volunteering, freelancing. It might be meeting up two of your girlfriends, or joining a community like the Your Mom Friend TT, or Coach Samoya's community. It might be as simple as just having that conversation, like Olivia mentioned, But I want to say one important thing. Did you know that after giving birth, mother flamingos lose their vibrant pink after giving
Really?
birth? And And do you know why that is?
Wow.
It's because as moms, they transfer the majority of their nutrients to their young, pouring out everything they have to do to nourish this new life. And each and every one of us know that, we give so much of ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally. And just like the flamingos, we tend to feel like we lost ourselves, right? But we will regain our color, all right, and our pink with time, with proper nourishment, proper community, and giving ourselves that grace and letting ourselves move through the process to be able to regain ourselves. And maybe it might be like how you come anew with like this whole phoenix rebirth, because you're not necessarily the same person you were before. No, you're a whole new version of the
Absolutely.
person that you were. Yeah, a new bird.
New birth.
Right.
Absolutely. And you know what? We
So,
don't even talk about those changes that happen in your body when
mhm.
you have to try to fit back in those work clothes and you realize
Yes,
that the body is not bodying.
not the same
You're
body.
wondering, Lord, what am I
Yeah,
going to do? You know,
yeah.
Not hairline, not hairlining.
I
hairline.
lost so much hair. I lost so much hair.
Listen, I have this muff for a
Yes.
reason.
Not
Yeah.
to mention, some people also lose some of their front teeth as well. You develop new
Mhm.
cavities due to the stent in
Yep.
pregnancy.
Yes.
Yes,
It's
yes.
a lot. It is truly a lot to go through. And that's why it's so painful when we as women, insult other women as though we don't have feelings. And
Mhm.
even if you haven't had the birthing experience, it is no joke. It is literally life and death.
Mhm.
I experienced a seizure
Yes.
after giving birth, and it is by God's grace and mercy that I am here, but there are women who don't make it. So
Yeah.
that journey on its own is very difficult. So at least we can give each other grace, going back to giving each other grace. Most people are not going to have a best body after they have a child, a year or
Nope.
2 years after. Give us a break. Take the
Yeah.
body we give
Suppose
you.
you never had a best buddy before, so how you get a best buddy after?
It just
So
can't
give your
be.
own self grace.
Hey,
I think
everybody is your best body. Everybody at every stage of your life is the best version of you at that point in time. So let's
Well
not
said.
forget
Well
to have
said.
one.
you got God
Well
good for you.
said.
It is, I mean, then it is so real. It really is difficult because that confidence drops after a while. And
Mhm.
Course,
it
I would
took me a little
imagine.
while. Gabby is 7, and I have just said, Lord, the world is going to take the body I give it because I can't do
We were
this.
just having that conversation. What the hate was.
Yes, we spoke about that. And
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't work like boss up every day, be a proper HR specialist, and then I have to come home and be a 100% mom to an extremely energetic child, and then I
Mhm.
have to have a best body on top of that. That's unreasonable.
Yeah, unrealistic.
I feel the pressure and I'm not
Unrealistic,
even a
that's
mom. It is a lot. Burden is a bit heavy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jesse,
that's a
embrace the new
challenge.
body. Absolutely, we are embracing. And you know what?
Mhm.
When I put on a suit, my God, and I get that suit looking good for you. Listen,
Yeah.
You have to wear the suit, the confidence,
believe.
however
The
you present the
confidence.
suit.
Of course,
Yeah.
I put on that high heel shoes and my face is as beat as Olivia's right now.
Whoa.
Come on,
Confidence
you.
is everything.
And
You
that's
have to show up and how you want the world to see. Despite
Mhm.
everything else that is happening, you have
Show
to
up.
show up like how you
You
want
show
to
up.
feel. And I
and that's
guarantee
why
you, throughout the day, everything will just smoothen out.
and that's why I think it's important for us to really compliment each other as women as well.
Oh yes.
You
I
know,
do.
you compliment another woman, I remember when Gio came back, although Gio, I thought you looked really good when you came back, but
Thank you.
Forget, girl.
Honestly, I
Me
look
too.
better then than I do now.
I was thinking for somewhere, yeah, but I just think y'all look, you compliment each other. You look really lovely today. I love the outfit. Sometimes it's good to just build each other up and not pull each other down. in the
Yes.
workplace,
I tell
particularly.
you that as well. Sometimes a compliment could change somebody's entire day.
Yes.
Because people
Exactly.
enjoy it, because you're so accustomed thinking so many negative things that when you
Mhm.
allow somebody else to see you in a different light, it's comforting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My co-workers as well, even when you pay them a compliment, they're so accustomed to hearing negative things. They will
Mhm.
now return, instead of saying thank you, they will now return it with a negative comment. I say, you could just stop at thank you.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you could just
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
So because I was like, you have on a nice shirt today. She said, this old shirt. She said, describe how much. Yes, she have it. I said, but I
Yeah.
didn't ask you that. I just say your shirt was nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
I said,
Yeah.
just say thank you and move on. You wear your
Okay, okay.
old shirt very nice. It just take care of your things. I like that for you.
But
That's
let me just put a little part there, right? So this is something that I do, and it's a little bit self-depreciating, and I do it, and I think it's because of our childhood trauma.
Wow.
So growing up, when you don't get those sort of compliments, or you don't get that sort of attention, you feel like you have to make yourself small. So
Hmm.
when you do get those compliments, when you do get it, because like I would have gotten, and I'm using my personal example, I would have bought a skirt for $20, and anybody who compliment me, I'm like, girl, this is just $20. And it's like, no, it's a nice skirt. So simply, just as you said it, Olivia, we just need to accept it and just thrive in our own self, no matter how much it costs, no
Oh,
matter if
yeah.
it's old. We're
Yes.
wearing that with confidence, and that's what we need to accept, and that's what we need to stop making ourselves small to fit into this world. We need
Yes.
to take up space. We need to have the audacity of men.
was.
Listen, I want that audacity this year.
Yes, we need to have the audacity of these men. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I look at how some dads embrace their dad bods, and
Mm-hmm.
they,
Yes.
you take me
Some
as
of
I
them is not
am.
even dads
Yeah.
and they have a dad bod. But
Yeah.
yet still
They
cannot
own it.
fight it like him.
Yeah.
And they are loving life. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
like it, that's your problem, not theirs.
Correct is
But
right.
we are going out
That's
of our
true.
way to be something that we are not. It's good to go to the gym and you want to feel confident, and that's great. That's for your health. But when you are stressing yourself out as if you are going on a Renaissance world tour, that is just, it's too much pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
reality of that is that cortisol is not going to kill you, and the results you're looking for are not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it
Yep.
sure
It's
is.
come like you're working and all your effort is going in vain.
Mm-hmm.
So just give yourself grace, appreciate your journey, and show up confident, because I promise you, nobody will never know what's happening in the background.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So, Danielle, now
Yes.
powering through. That is powering through. We do that all the time. We get up depressed, sometimes tired, sometimes no sleep, and we still have to power through the day, even as a bonus mom, because you understand the challenges of your husband having to do the parenting, and there are some things that you may not be able to help with. So how do you power through as a mom? I'm gonna just extend it and say a mom, because that is who she sees you, and she sees her dad. How do you power through and make it through your day as a mom?
Well, I look at it in phases because, like, when she was like 3 to SCA age 11, I would remember times of knowing how to, like, when she comes over, I would look at helping with homework, helping with whatever aspects of her schoolwork is needed at that time. And I mean, in our situation, she's lucky because she has myself, and then by her grandmother, she has an auntie. So there's an auntie there who would help as well when she comes over by us. The dad and I would help. And one of the things I said was critical in my aspect of powering through, I would include her in my workspace. Like I would let her visit where I work. You know, I was working, I think at the station and then at ODPM, and I like to incorporate her in terms of what I do. This is what I do. This is my job. And this is where I work, and this is some of the people that I work with. And sometimes she will have conversations with me and say, you're working again, you're working these long hours. And the long hours, even as a bonus mom, listen to me. It's like you're still working. I remember sometimes she'd be like, "You're still working tonight. You're working tomorrow night too." So sometimes I have to. The challenge is carving out space when you have a busy schedule because both the dad and I work shifts. But lucky for us, they are grandparents in our home, so she'll have the grandparents to be around and interact with. But I think the powering through challenge is carving out that space, because I have been in 2 jobs that were very time consuming, whether it's a shift or whether it's taking up a lot of time. And I had to carve out time, even though we're tired, to make time to at least assist or talk. There was one time I remember, I realized like she was going through something and I was working very late. And I said, you know what? Let me ask this child what's happening, because I picked up that something was going on. Maybe she was stressed at school and she wasn't able to talk to anybody because she's quite introverted. So I just started a conversation, tired, right? Tired, real tired. I just had to put aside your tiredness. And she's like, what's happening with this child? And then find time, hey, what's happening? And interact normal and be talking normal. And then you know, kids, everything when you ask them, oh, how are you? Normal. That's their term. And then eventually in the casual conversations, you'll hear, you know, the little challenges at school or with friends. And then beyond the SCA, secondary school now presents a whole new challenge. And I was prepping her for that. I said, you know, there's a culture shift from primary school to secondary school. And I'll tell you, you know, look, these are some of the challenges you might face when you're coming into secondary school. And then she had to navigate friendships. So when friendships don't work, so, you know, those are some of the things that interact with her. So when friendships don't work, you know, maybe God wants you to be around certain other friends. So I'll pray with her and see if God will send her the right friends, you know. And I saw God doing that. And I was like, you know, maybe God wants you to be around this person as opposed to that person. Because I would see why that friendship was not working. But, you know, at that age, they're not seeing that. So I kind of navigate, talk to the dad, and we'll navigate things through. Now, fathers see things differently, you know. When it's their child, they're like the overprotective bear. They're like the papa bear. I don't want anything happen to my child. But like with the mama bear now, the mama bears have to kind of reach in and find out what's happening and do the little talks and find out what's really going on there, you know, because sometimes you have to dig through a little bit. Some kids don't really open up. If your child is introverted, you have to find ways of having just a normal talk, and maybe something will open up, you know. So the powering through was finding that time, because my challenge was different jobs and different seasons, and still having to find time, carving out time to spend with this child and to make sure that, you know, nothing is out of your sight, you know, that nothing is missing. Now, in the workspace, people don't really look at bonus parents as parents. You know, there's this mindset of, well, you're not really a parent, you know, this child just come by you part-time, so you're not really a parent. Sometimes they look at you like that. Sometimes there's a bias with bonus parents in the workplace. They feel, well, no, you feel that's the reality. It's like, okay, well, you're the auntie or the stepfather is the uncle. So there's a tendency to look at the bonus parent a little differently, right? As opposed to the biological parent.
Yes.
But I would say we power through, do what we have to do, make your input, pray, and allow God to use us as positively as possible to impact on that child.
Wow.
You know, regardless of what people think. Sometimes my mom would say, my mom is one of the most encouraging persons as a grandparent of being around, you know. Sometimes she will encourage me. She might say, you know what, look at this area, look at that area. And I would say, okay, maybe I'll pay attention to this area some more. So it really takes a village to raise a child, you know, y'all. It really takes a village, because we cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone. So we really need the input of positive parents, and aunt, or uncle, or grandparent, positive people around.
So I want to piggyback off something Danielle said. So Danielle, you talked about carving out time and how your bonus daughter basically would say that you're always working. So my son is 2 years old and he's now starting to talk. And one of the hardest things I had to face was he would say, as soon as he hears the door or anything, oh, daddy's working, mommy's working, daddy's working. And he's barely talking. And those are the words that he knows because when he's with me,
Right.
he's asking for daddy. And I would say, well, daddy's working. And when he's with his daddy, he would ask for me. And daddy would say, well, mommy's working. So he picked up that and he's 2 years old.
Yes,
So
yes.
we talk about carving out time. And then my husband also suggested this. And this is something that I think, might work for you guys as well. It's no screen time 1 hour. 1 hour with instead of us checking our phones or checking emails, or because I have my laptop downstairs in my workstation and it's readily accessible. So even if someone says, hey, check your email for this, I would leave him go check my email. So my husband said, when you come home in the afternoon, 1 hour of zero screen time, no checking our phones, no checking this. Let's
Good.
carve out that time just to give to him
Excellent.
so that he doesn't feel like, he's
Yeah.
begging for that
Excellent.
attention.
Yes.
Yes, that's excellent.
That was like
Yeah.
a
That's really
suggestion.
excellent.
Quite good. Wonderful.
Yes.
Great there, ladies. But what about, the moms that have no support? I mean, we were talking last night about the cost of support.
Mm-hmm.
It's so challenging because if you don't have grandma and grandpa or an auntie or a girlfriend, because that's the reality of some people. I have seen a co-worker have to bring her child to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yes, yes, yes.
executive may have challenges with that, but the reality is that she has to make the responsible decision. So if you have to pay for daycare, and we were talking earlier about dropping off to school, the bus fees are close to $1,000.
Yeah.
So what happens there in those cases? I think we really do need to have some type of reform to allow
Yes.
workplaces to have those types of accommodations. And I must big up Police Credit Union. They have that workspace in their building where children, there's a
Excellent.
center. Big up to
Excellent.
they have a work center
good, good.
where the children could come. I mean, it's not large, but the parents still feel safe that their children are there when they
Yes.
come from school. And, you can keep an eye ever so often. But outside of those structures, what do parents do? Is there flexible
That's the
hours
thing,
that
yes, something,
parents can work with? Go ahead, Olivia.
Not all environments allow for that flexibility because we have persons who work in the fast food and customer service.
Right.
Oh boy, yes,
Yeah,
They
yes,
don't have
yes.
that. They don't have
So
it.
now they are forced now to make more hours in order to pay for all this aftercare, all these additional fees that they simply cannot afford with minimum wage. So
Yep.
now they are even stretching themselves even thinner. And now they have to compromise. Is either I provide additional resources for my child, which going to cost me the time that I have to spend quality time with my child
Mm-hmm.
in order to ensure that they have resources. And it's actually a price that parents shouldn't have to choose to do.
That's
But
correct.
society,
Yes, yes, yes.
they have no other choice. So she
Yeah.
also have that burden. She really want to be a good mother, but society is not allowing her to be a great mother because she dealt with
Yes.
some paths and really that's all that she can do in that moment, and she don't have any additional support. So she's forced to work all the extra time that she could, and the extra money that she's making, she know how to pay for aftercare, and
That's
hope that the daycare now have extended shift that could accommodate her.
Oh.
Or get a nice old lady who owns the daycare who really understand her plight and really trying with her. But not everybody get that opportunity. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
we also
yes.
to consider as well.
Then there is now within those constraints, women now are at a place where they have to be a little bit more confident and assertive to set certain boundaries to say, listen, I am not staying in this meeting beyond 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It takes courage to do that, Donnie. You all understand what that feels like? Having to
Yes, yes,
come
yes.
and say, I cannot stay here past this time because this is my situation, or I do not have a vehicle and I have to travel at this hour. You have a SUV you can jump into.
And you will
I
even give my drop.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
I will
That's
never
good.
understand a manager having a meeting past 2 p.m., knowing that everybody has their children to pick up. My brain is literally blown out, so I can't give you any good ideas. So why are we having this meeting after 2 p.m.?
I know Samoya, Daniel, and I would have been at work all past close to 11 o'clock sometimes in the night.
Yes, yes,
That
Listen,
is a crazy
yes.
place to be. In my
7
early part of my career, I
p.m.
have always set those boundaries. I was like,
yes,
we can't be having meetings past 2 p.m. because we have to consider the other persons.
Mhm.
yes,
Because we had a lot of single parents in our department. And
yep.
this manager would love to have meetings past 2 p.m. I was like, so what are you doing with your time all day?
Wow.
You are just traipsing
Wow.
up and down, but all of a sudden, past 2 p.m., when people unpacking to go home, you decide that you want to meet with the team. What happened to meeting with the team 9 o'clock when everybody's fresh and can give you the best of themselves?
Yes, yeah.
What is it with coming to work at 4 p.m. and operating as though it's 8? What is
Yes.
Ah.
you know? So that's the flexibility sometimes that non-parents or parents of older children have. You can do what you want. We can't.
Yeah.
Our time still doesn't stop. And I've checked it. Coming from work and picking up my daughter, I still have to come home and do homework. I have to make dinner. I have to make sure thankfully, grandma make sure she's showered and changed. But I still have those things to check. And, I'm not sure if all primary schools do it, but my daughter's school, as you go through the homework, you have to put your signature to say that you did see the homework, you saw
Yeah,
whatever
that's
notes.
fine.
So you
Wow.
have
Because a lot of children they say, Miss, I didn't see my mommy didn't see the homework, so Miss want to make sure mommy did see the
mommy
homework.
see it.
You
Yes,
wanna know
yes,
why the
yes.
child get all those things wrong.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the projects. Listen, I do not like
Mhm.
art. I do not like
Yes.
art. I tried all secondary school to duck art class. Now I'm finding myself making all sorts of nonsense. These
Nice, but
projects
still,
is not
no,
for
we have a lot
second
of things
year.
to do.
No, those projects are meant for the parents to work with the child, but more often than not, the parents do it on their own, with the
That's
child
true.
playing with it or tossing some colors somewhere. Those projects are
Yes,
really meant
yes.
for the parents. I think those
I,
teachers
I
should
Sometimes
do it
based
so
on the
that we
lifestyle
can.
too.
it's
But
Mommy
I
kind of
really,
doing the project on work
here
Mhm.
now. I
because she
saw a
don't have the
lady.
luxury of time to do it when she come from work. Cause really, it's just for him to write in the writer part because
Yeah,
he's
Yes,
barely sleeping on himself.
yeah.
I
yeah.
saw a lady in my building be coming down the elevator, and she has a full volcano. She has an active volcano ready to erupt in this elevator, and I say, "Big up you, mommy. I hope
Yeah.
you got an A
Hey,
because
yeah.
that is your A.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
if Gabby don't bring home that A for me, I get it not bad enough.
Yeah.
Because
That's my A. That's my
my
A. I did that.
I did that work. So it's
But I
so much.
really,
It doesn't stop. You have
but I really
these
feel
things. Go
I,
ahead.
I don't know. I don't know if there's legislation somewhere. I'm not sure about that whole industrial act because I'm not versed in it, but I look at some of the jobs that we see more and more women occupying, and a lot of them are shift jobs. Like Olivia was mentioning the food industry. There's the security industry. People working security are asked to work exorbitant hours and
Yes.
asked to work shifts and added shifts. And I really wonder, and then they're minimum wage earners, and then you wonder how they're making out with their children. I don't know if there's legislation that can really protect the rights of parents when they have to deal with having daycare, having to have time for them to take them to school. I don't know, is there some kind of act
But not
or
that I'm
legislation?
aware, not that I'm aware of, but the organization do have that duty of care to their employees, that aspect of care. And in my practice, I try to take it at a case by case because we can't deny that there are people who find ways to skirt and beat the system. So for me,
Right.
when parents come to me with certain things, I ask for things in writing. This is your particular issue. You have a letter from the school or something like that so that it protects both you and me. Because
Right.
that you have a parents meeting and then you are seen elsewhere, right? And you know, we can't take for granted that sometimes there are people on the board that are all over the place and they are saying, but I see your employee pulling bull. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
and that question, when I have a sick leave before me, but you are pulling bull out there on the streets, you know,
Yes.
so
Yes.
it really has
I
to
can tell
be.
you what to do with your sick leave. As far as I'm concerned, he was sick. So that's out of my hands.
So you
I
are
am
sick,
not a doctor. I am an HR professional, and
but
you
it
brought in
doesn't
your
stop the
documents.
executive from being out and about and present. I can say to you by evidence, there is a document here that says to me that you are sick, but you are out there pulling bull and they're taking pictures and sending to me. So what do I say in that meeting? What do I
You are
say?
sick, and that I did not see anything.
You see?
Pictures don't work in our workplace here in the
And
Caribbean.
you are placed in a peculiar position.
You are
You are
sick.
placed in a
Let's leave
position.
it at
So
that.
we
He
argue
told
that.
me that he was sick. Maybe he
Yes,
recovered
and
past
that's
12
what that
o'clock,
is.
but he still was sick by 8 to 10.
Yeah,
And that's all I
you
can say.
understand?
He was sick.
That is, and the challenges now
Maybe he
that
was
so
just
we
sick
have that
about that
banter.
day in the office, but he was sick.
He was sick, right? So Danny, that is what happens in industrial relations. That's a very small demonstration of the fact that people can do anything. They can do and say anything. We have the
Right.
law on one side, and then we have our responsibilities as HR professionals, even as other managers. When you are being asked certain questions, and it is
Right.
easy to appear incompetent because you cannot produce an answer. All I can say to you is I have
Yes.
a document before me, but they don't want to hear that. What do we do in those cases?
Yeah.
But the man said that
Understood.
he was sick. If you saw him, that's your issue. I didn't see him. It could be your word against mine because I didn't see him.
That's
He
right.
gave me a sick leave. I can't
That's-
go against what I have
We
in front
can't.
of me.
We
How are
can't
you go and
say
hide the
that.
man and ride the man? He produced, you're entitled to 12 sick leave. He took one. He was sick.
Then-
And just leave it at that. When he exhausts his sick leave, then we could explore
Then
the
we
gray
jump
area.
into that.
Right.
But until then, he was sick, and we covered him because he was sick.
So the dynamics, the workplace dynamics and the industrial relations, it really has to be dealt with case by case, you know? And where women are
Yeah.
concerned, we have to, there are times we will have to speak out like Olivia and say, well, the man's sick, you know, you don't have nothing I can do for that.
Yeah,
He's sick.
There's nothing I can do for that.
that's between him and his doctor.
That's
He gave me a sick leave. He was
and
sick.
that's what I have.
I am
And
not a
that's what I
medical
have.
practitioner to fight that down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most important thing, he brought in coverage. I received it, I acknowledge it, I file it, and I take the necessary action. Whether you saw him on the road doing whatever, the man was sick and he had coverage.
And that's all we could say. So now I
If he
found that
classified as medical for some reason, then you have
when you
ground.
get into those, then you get
But if
into
it's
those.
not, if it's nothing like that, and you take a regular 1 day sick leave, come on.
I think we could avoid being petty in the workplace too. You
No,
know,
we love
it's a
it. You know,
simple
that
fight.
manager that would have sent that complaint was being very petty.
Yeah. No, there are certain situations where you know what, we just need to give people a little break too, because it's
Yeah.
humanity. Yeah,
That ease up.
Yeah, but
It's
think
human-
about it from this perspective. You can't submit a sick leave for a mental health day because then your HR person might be like, "Oh, okay." So
Our
maybe
policy don't give leave for that.
right. So then
There's
what
no
we have
pay.
to do now is kind of work the system to have a sick day. So when we need that mental health day. You know, I'm not saying that in all situations it is right. I am not saying that it is right. I'm just
But
saying that
It's not
sometimes you have to
justifiable,
work
but
the
it's
system.
necessary.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need a pause, and that's where your sick leave happen. You're not physically sick, but mentally sick is a real thing today.
absolutely.
Burnout is real, and seeing that my policy do allow me to take a mental health day, I'm forced to take a general sick day and apply it to my mental health situation. So I
Things
am
like
sick.
that happen.
I'm tired.
And listen, tiredness is a real thing. Eh?
Yes.
Could I have seen where because somebody is just exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically, that they fall on bring their full costs out in the workplace.
Mhm.
I have seen where that happened, and I have to say to some people, listen to me. I've reviewed your file. You seem you have some vacation days. Let's discuss you going on a couple of days and get yourself together, because what I don't want is for you to show up on my in my workspace with some type of weaponry and set it off in there. It happens. Some people are pushed to a point where they can no longer return. And we have to recognize those signs when somebody needs some time off and you get them out of there for for their safety and for everyone else's safety. It's important. That pause is
I
very
think for
important.
individuals, you need to understand when you need to pause. Nobody
Oh,
should
yeah.
tell you when you need to pause.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You need to be so in tune with your body that when your check lights start coming on, you need to distance yourself, because your body does give you sign. Sometimes
Yeah.
you become so irritated for no reason. Things that you
Mhm.
find ease doing now becomes a problem.
Hmm.
Simple conversations. This coworker I used to love, but all of a sudden, sight of this lady is no longer agreed with you.
It's no longer, I mean, and this is taking it
That
a
is
step
when the check
further.
light starts to come in. You need to take a break from that place.
And this is just a little step further, and we probably may or may not be there as yet. But I recently had to deal with a colleague who expressed to me, listen, I am going through menopause, and
Mhm.
it's a lot.
Mhm.
It is a lot. And it was really sad to hear she's going through all of this and managing life, and still, having to be a parent and go through all of these things, and yet still there's no facility to say what do we do with somebody who's menopausal or premenopausal and are having these. Sometimes you will have be a little angry, you may have different emotions. How are we dealing with that? Women have a lot to carry.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
We do have a lot to carry, and for the women that carry those stresses and those challenges with grace, listen,
Mhm.
you are doing a fantastic job.
Of course.
Yes,
Fantastic
yes.
job. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not good enough. Sometimes as mothers we might slip. There are times when
Mhm.
children get besides themselves. I can't tell you how much
Yes,
time.
yes.
Listen, toddlers are fearless. They don't
Yes.
respect death. They don't respect danger. And sometimes you just have to run and grab them just in the nick of time. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you are an irresponsible mother or parent, but it means that you are human and you just didn't catch them in time.
Yeah.
Wow,
It
wow.
does happen. It does happen.
It
And you don't need
has.
to beat yourself up about it.
Oh, yes.
Things does happen. Why it's called an accident. If
It's
you could have prevented
accidents.
it, it would not have happened.
And even when you look at when the children start interacting with other children, you cannot protect these children from everything.
Mhm.
Listen,
Yes.
don't play soccer in my house, but my child know about young brother, and she is singing young brother. So like little lady, we just come from church,
not
and she
not
is
not
listen.
my good niece that I just see dancing on the internet
Your
somewhere.
good
Not
good
my good
Yeah.
niece.
your good niece could do all the
Hey,
things.
in life there's balance, right? So I'm gonna take Gabby's side. In life there's balance. You can be
That
godly
is
and you
it.
can enjoy a little
Everybody
soca.
is learning things from the environment.
It's really, and you
Everybody's
know what?
learning new things from the environment.
If anybody sees that scenario, because they may know me as Sister Samoya in church, and when you
Mhm.
see Sister Samoya daughter doing all of this, you say,
Ah,
what is going on here? And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, Gabby's personality is not mine. People meet her
Definitely.
first, and then
yeah.
when they meet me, they say, you boring though. I say, yeah, well, we don't have the same personality. She is extremely outgoing.
Yes.
So, when she like a song, she had to sing it until it dead.
Oh my
You
goodness.
cannot always control what your little one is
Mhm.
around. You try to have your protective barriers, but that happens too as a mom. You are so trying to hold everything together that things start slipping out of your hands.
Yep.
That's true.
So that
I think you just
And
is
have to instill the
necessary.
right values in them that even when they're exposed to different elements, that they still
Yeah.
choose and make the right decision. Because you can't protect them from everything. They're going to learn from life experiences. You just have to make that the foundation so solid that even when they're exposed to it, they still stay at the right course. And that's where responsible parenting comes in. That they are
Wow.
not easily swayed by all the negative pulses in the environment. So I
Yes.
think once you continue to build a solid foundation with them, you're free to allow them into the environment and let them choose their path after that. One thing about a good foundation, they could run haywire for a few times, but they always come back to their roots. And you could trust in that they're going to find their way back. When life starts to beat them up a little bit, they realize that course is not for them and they're going to find their knot.
Yes.
Yes.
They're
And,
going
and,
to find their knot. That's
and
the
what I
importance
want
of
to
a
say,
good foundation.
Good.
I want to pull back on something Olivia would have said earlier on, right? Where she said that we need to set the example for our kids, right? And Samoya, you obviously are very, very good at setting that example for her. But I also want to say that, we are the sum of our daily habits, the small, consistent choices that, we do each day. That
Right.
shapes who we are, and that shapes who they see and who they want to emulate later on, right?
Correct.
So it's not like the grand gestures once in a while. Like, even I will say, me, Samoya, you go to church every Sunday. I probably go once a month or once every 2 months. I don't do what I need to do, which I would like to do as well. But, time constraints, it's a little bit difficult for me personally, right? But we're getting there. We're on the road. We're getting there, right? So it's the everyday decisions, the discipline to show up, the courage to keep going, the grace to give ourselves when we need. But
Yes.
it's about being who you are. And yes, your daughter has this big personality. Logan, my son, he has a big personality as well. But this decent, genuine person that you are, that is who she's going to emulate.
Yeah.
Right? So the little
Right.
dancing, the little soca, the little everything, that's just testing the
That's just
boundaries. You
That's
know?
Yes, 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 yes.
Right? That's not who she actually
is.
is.
Mhm.
Right?
that's just
And at
a
the
little
end of the day,
flavor.
you are her role model. You are her first role model. You are the person that she looks up to, and she is seeing a God-fearing woman, and she's not gonna stray from that.
Well,
Correct.
I sure
Yes,
do hope
nice.
so. Thank you.
Someone love to listen to a little young brother from time to time. That is
Yeah,
just
yeah, that's okay.
embracing her character,
That's okay.
and learning new things.
And
I really
just to give you a
enjoy
quick joke,
what
how I bounced up that is we had a disagreement, and I am there carrying on. And she said, Mommy, take it easy. I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. She just has me cracking up. She really, and that's the joy of it sometimes, a little
Yeah.
sassy get in between, so
Yes,
it
yes.
says to me, she's alive, she's kicking, she's
Mm-hmm.
breathing,
Nice.
and she is doing
as
a
well
lot.
as
She's
she have the
growing.
critical thinking skills because look
Listen,
how
the
she was
critical
able to put
skills.
that into context.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
that means
yes.
she's thinking outside the box. So
Yeah,
that means all those
Yes,
little homework you're doing with her is working.
Mm-hmm.
She was
yes,
explaining
yes.
when and how to use the songs.
yeah, she used the song very well. I said, listen, you're
It
critical,
wasn't
you better
reckless,
do
it
the
was
same for
well
me.
thought out.
Yeah, listen, and you all see my status, so this is not a made up thing. You
Yeah.
see my status from time to time, the things that she says. Sometimes I'm like, how do you know that?
No, yeah.
They pull so much from their environment.
That's
They
true.
pull, we have, oh gosh, we are an hour in, and I have a final question. I could probably start. While we doing all of this pausing and pivoting and or trying to understand that we are enough. The question is, what one powerful lesson has motherhood or nurturing taught you that you carry not just in the workplace and wherever you go? So I will start. The one powerful lesson. Let me give a little backstory. My first HR experience was horrible. It was really, really bad. I almost lost my child because of workplace stress. And I say it publicly because that's my truth. And I had to make a decision to leave that situation because I didn't want to come home and bring that stress to my child. And it taught me to be a little bit more resilient. So yes, I'm still kind of shy, But there are times when the beast is going to activate and they see a different side of me. And I say to myself, this side has to resurrect so that I don't show my child that it's okay for you to talk to me like that. So I don't give anybody any free pass. There's a difference between diplomacy. I give you a chance as a professional, but then there's a time when if your voice starts elevating too much, I'm going to say, here, wait, let's stop. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to leave my office, and then we will come back, because I don't want you to feel like it's okay to talk to me like that. You know, I'm not sure of the impression I give you, but don't get these glasses mixed up here. I've had to say that a couple times. And motherhood brought that out of me. I found a fight that I didn't have all these years. I didn't have that in me. But being a mother now, I have to say, listen, I need to be careful of what I'm showing my child. So that is one powerful lesson for me, to graciously but assertively say, back off. And you know your place. You don't have to know everywhere else, but you see a place? Yeah, that.
That is
I
important.
don't know that. So, ladies, what's one powerful lesson that motherhood or that journey of nurturing has taught you that helped you throughout your career?
Mine would be twofold. I would say understanding boundaries. Mine is twofold: understanding boundaries and being real with myself. I had to be real with myself as a bonus mom, knowing my limitations and knowing how far or how much to allow and not allow. To be honest, there are times when I had to also understand how to correct but not overstep boundaries of the father's role. And it was tough because I want to teach this child as much as possible and correct, because you know the Lord say you love those you would correct. So I would correct in love, right? And my correction is normally little lectures and things. I like to do little lectures and stuff. But I learned over the years that if the child doesn't take what I'm teaching, understand that you're doing enough, you're doing your best. Understand your boundaries. Maybe the dad could do his part and go in there. In the job, I've understood that there are boundaries, and I had to be real with myself in situations. I had to be real with myself in the workplace and just be honest with myself. Okay, these are my limitations. I can only do this much. I'm not doing any more. Don't push me to do any more. This is how much I can do.
Yes.
And I'm not going to push myself to get sick or to get stressed, because over the years, I've realized too that stress is really something that kills, and I don't think anything is worth getting sick over or stressed. So I've learned to create boundaries, still learning it, to be honest, to carve out my boundaries and to be real with myself and real with others.
Wow.
So
Fantastic.
that's what I've learned. Yeah.
Gio, Olivia, what's some powerful lesson that motherhood has taught you, or nurturing, being a part of that parenting experience?
So you want me to go first?
Sure, anyone, jump in.
Yeah. So for me, you know, motherhood taught me the power of patience, right? I did not have much patience before becoming a parent, right? And the importance of adaptability. Life with a toddler is ridiculous, right? You have to be ready to pivot at any moment, you know, and that skill is invaluable in the workplace, right? But it's also made me a more empathetic leader. And I understand the need for flexibility. I understand the need for grace. I understand the need for real support, not just lip service. You know, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think a lot of moms need to take that in. You cannot keep giving and giving and giving if you do not have yourself filled with love, filled with support, filled with, you know, that friendship. Maybe it might be a partner, maybe it might be a friend, you know, but building your mom friend TT. And I will say I have not done the work that it really needs to be the organization that it really has to be, right? It's a growing process, but that was my way of extending that grace to mothers, because I believe that, you know, when women feel supported, they can truly thrive, you know. And we were talking about this last night. We need a space to thrive, and we need a space to support each other. And this workplace, personal life, parenting life, we need to come together and support each other so that we can all pour from each other's cups and we don't have to be empty at any one time.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Olivia, how about you?
Well, being an auntie and also working with children in a youth foundation actually taught me that I'm not willing to compromise certain things.
Hmm.
So I really have a clear boundary that being a mother is going to be my first and most important job when I decide to do that.
Yeah.
And I understand that the workplace doesn't give concessions for that role. Hence the reason why, as I told you somewhere last year, that I've decided to throw out my resume and take up my business plan. So I
Hmm.
really decide that entrepreneurship is the only way that I could design the type of mother I want to be for
Wow.
my children, right? So that is
Wow.
a decision that I made whenever that time reached. But I had to start building out the platform now because I realized that engaging and working with children who parents are always absent because they're always working, one constant tune keep playing. My
Yeah.
mother not there, my father not there. So that's the reason why I is how I is. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know my mother and my father, miss. Auntie, I don't know my mother and my father, them always working. And I realize how important the role of a parent is in the
Yes.
household. And I'm not willing to bear that guilt for my child, even when they are teenager or 18, even though I'm providing financially, the lack
Mhm.
of being there that the workplace take away from being a highly reliable mother because often
Yeah.
they don't have that support.
Hmm.
So that is a decision that I make. So really entrepreneurship is the way that I'm going in order for I to be the best mother that I think that I want to be,
Yeah.
not by societal standards or anybody else's definition. It's really based on my definition of being a good mother, you know.
Right.
And the workplace doesn't support that role. So I
Mhm.
have to design my own workspace that will support my ideology of being a good mother, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's what being and exposing myself to others people's children have taught me. That is my life lesson.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm able to work. So I try to encourage them that, life after 18 really isn't about your mother and your father anymore. It's about you
Mhm.
willing to design your life and take responsibility. Regardless of how your past is, you have time to
Hmm.
change now. So
Yeah.
I really want parents to understand how important the role is in parenting because you are designing your children for life after 18. And the
Absolutely.
foundation is so important. And I'm
That's
seeing
right.
so many kids are
Yes.
growing up so damaged.
Yes. Yes.
So, Donia, I am so happy that you take the role of being a bonus mom so important.
Yep.
Mhm.
That child doesn't even understand how
Nope.
much effort it is to take a bonus mom, you
Hmm.
know. And for
Yes.
you to even take on that role wholeheartedly is like she have triple the amount of support. So I
Yeah.
really hope that she appreciates everything that you're doing because it's
Mhm.
almost like you and your family redesign your life
That's
in
right.
order to cut to the front. And
That's
that is
right.
something that people really don't do. So I
Mhm.
really hope that she grew up to really appreciate that effort because that is something that
Absolutely.
you could never ever buy or nobody can tell you how to do that. You just have to do
That's
that
right.
from a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And
Thank you.
if she doesn't say thank you, I want to say thank you for raising a
Yes.
responsible person
Thank you,
into
Olivia and
society.
team.
That's right.
Because I see the challenges of children not being raised by responsible parents, and it's
Wow.
really playing out negatively in the space. So
Mhm.
every mother who taken their role of being a parent very, very serious. A round of applause to you
That's
tonight.
right. That's right.
I want to say thank you so much for not compromising that job.
Hmm.
Society really appreciates responsible persons, and I
That's
want to
right.
say thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much. It's really um I don't know, like I'm actually feeling like
Sorry to
it's
make you
it's
tear up.
I really, really appreciate what you said because sometimes you don't know if you're doing enough. Sometimes you don't know, and it's good to really have that encouragement. So God bless you for those words. Thank you, and the team, Gio and Samoya. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And as well, you, Olivia. I think there's a special blessing for you, obviously, for taking the
Girl,
role of other people's, taking the roles of other people's children, and it's more than one, obviously, that you're
yes,
imparting on.
yes.
So
No, I
we
actually
thank God.
work with a foundation as well that actually deals with
Wow,
children who parents were slacking on their
wow.
responsibility. So I try to
Wow.
reshift and reprogram how they
Yes,
think and they behave. Because even though
excellent.
you're 18 years old, I think life isn't done with you as yet, right? You're still alive and
Yes.
you're still breathing. So I try
Yes,
to show them that there's still possibilities regardless of how your mother and father would have participated in your life.
That's
yes,
right.
yes,
Healthy,
yes.
you're not in jail and you're not in the hospital. So you still have possibilities. So I try to
Hmm.
position them for that focus.
That's right.
Wow,
Because
excellent.
life is giving you a second chance and you ought to be appreciative. Yes, it started with a messy beginning, but it's really
Yes,
about where you want your ending to look like. So
Mhm.
that's
I try
right.
to
That's
try to
right.
focus them on the finished product and not really the beginning. I understand that your parents didn't hold the mantle as they're supposed to, but whatever impact that I can make now, I really try to drive that home, you
Hmm.
know. And that's
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
I can't correct what your parents would have done.
Hmm.
But if I could engage you now, I could correct where your future is going to take you. And if I could be a
Yeah.
part of that journey and share my resources with you, I'm more than willing to help. And I think
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what life wants me to contribute. So I get a lot of joy in that role and
Wow.
volunteering in that
Great.
area. So,
I,
Wow.
I'll say,
That is
telling
wonderful.
us moms, support systems are the real MVPs. You see,
it
Mhm.
is.
aunties and these people who step in. I mean, I can tell you there are many
Yes,
days I'm so exhausted. And my sister, those who are close to me know my sister Lisa, who's watching right now. Lisa, big up to you.
Yes,
Big
Lisa,
up
we
to you.
thank you for helping
Lisa's
us with
been,
that.
she's been about a
Sometimes
Yes.
month with
in our
me.
meeting, she's like, Gabby, come on, Gabby, come on.
Listen, she
Yes.
has Gabby under pins and needles. And she,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things I said, oh God, if I apologize, I said, oh God, I'm sorry. She was a little bit louder. She said, girl, you forget I take care of you. That's what my sister said. She said, I took care of you. I can handle Gabby. She said,
Yeah.
you don't need to worry about that. When she come here, she listen to me and she love to say, the tail don't wag the dog. So the other day, I'm telling Gabby, I say, hello, the tail don't wag the dog. And she said, you sound like Auntie Lisa. They're smart. They know.
Yeah.
So you really have to give thanks for the support systems who stand in as foundations, you know,
Yes.
because they
Yes.
even help heal generational traumas. They would have
Mhm.
been familiar with
True.
certain things and they say, listen, the buck has to stop here. It's not going
Mhm.
to pass
Yes.
this generation to this. So we're gonna stop it. I'm gonna hold your hand through this journey.
And I
So
Yes.
keep
the
telling them that.
stepmoms, the persons who stand in, the godparents, who really give that support to ensure that the parenting journey is not affected by the trauma of the last generation. We thank you for that. We thank you. Us moms, we need that. And sometimes you need, as a mom, you need somebody to pull you back from the grips of depression and say, listen, you need to
Yes.
get
Yes.
your child needs,
Mhm.
you know, you have to survive in this life. So get up from that bed of affliction and keep it pushing. So you need that. You need that support. And to all of you who have been support systems to parents, we thank you. We honor you.
Thank you so much.
I believe you deserve Mother's Day gifts. I want to end on that note. You don't have to be a biological mother to receive that token
Mhm.
of appreciation. You should
Correct.
receive it. You know, I did that in my workplace today. All women got because you stand in and you support, just like all men, you know, in the workplace. If you know, whatever you are, God bless you. But hopefully it should inspire you to stand in and do what needs to be done. But ladies, this was a fantastic session. It is now 6 minutes to 9, and we have been really having a fantastic time. I
Yes.
hope we can come together again. It was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Gems that you dropped, each and every person. We went from professional to personal to spiritual to marital to financial, you know, so it
Mhm.
was very broad. It was all encompassing, and we really hope that the mothers received the gems and the jewels that they need to press on. So as we go ahead to celebrate, we kick off our Mother's Day weekend. Cheers to each and every one of us. for doing a fantastic job. Cheers
Thanks
to
for
you,
playing
ladies.
your part.
Cheers to you, ladies. You are doing fantastic.
Cheers to you.
You need to hear that. Just being on this session tonight, I know Gio's son is watching, like, where's my mama? But you know, she did something
She's
tonight.
working. She's working.
She's working. She's working.
That's right. And showing them what being a boss is like. You know, so
Mhm.
they
That's
said,
right.
see, my mommy, my stepmom, my auntie is a boss. You know, so I can't go down. I can't go back down. I have to always go up because I have a role model in front of me.
Correct.
So, ladies, we will stay. If you all have 5 minutes to stay on, we'll stay on and I will end the stream. But
Yeah.
thank you all once again for joining us, for those of us who were able to stay. And as you reflect on this weekend, I pray and hope that you will get the time that you need to just reflect, to rest, and to get up and go again. This Mother's Day weekend is in honor of every mother, every standing mother, every support system. We salute you and we wish you a happy Mother's Day. I'm Coach Samoya. Thank you so much for joining us.